Hey, welcome to an exciting edition of Drive-By Reviews. In case you haven't heard, Sigma recently released its Prime Lens Trio for the Canon mirrorless system. And today, we're going to stack up the Sigma 30mm against the native Canon 32mm. Now, since the Sigma comes in a little bit less in cost compared to the native lens, the question today is going to be, which one's the better value and which one should you include in your pack? We're going to compare them head to head when it comes to image quality, autofocusing interaction with the Canon M50 body, and of course, low light capabilities when it comes to the various video and photography uses, like vlogging. All that and more in today's video. Let's start off by comparing these lenses side by side. Here we go. Okay, here we have the Sigma lens on the left and the Canon on the right. And as you can see, there's a bit of a size difference here. And not only a size difference in length, height, and diameter, but also a bit of a weight difference. So the Sigma lens is about 270 grams and the Canon lens is spec'd at 235 grams. So once again, Canon just coming out of the gates with that compact mentality, taking a priority position with design mentality, whereas Sigma is all about function, function, function. However, in this case, they're keeping it pretty close to the native lens. It's just a little bit bigger. There's clearly a larger front lens element, clearly a larger back lens element on the Sigma lens. And because of that, and also the fact that the Sigma lens has 9 lens elements compared to the Canon's 14 lens elements, I'll be really curious to see how this stacks up to the image quality of the 32. I mean, this was phenomenal in the lens review I did. There was a shortcoming, however, and this takes us to the one difference really in lens design, and that's that there's a focus limiter switch on the Canon here that lets you take it from its 0.23 meter minimum focus distance to 0.5 if you have it switched on. And that's supposed to speed up the autofocusing of the Canon native lens because it doesn't allow the lens to go to the minimum focus range, say if it's hunting for an object. And that does happen if you're shooting into a bright backdrop with a dimmer or less lit foreground. You can't find it, and if it doesn't have the limiter focus switch limiting the minimum focus range, it'll go all the way out, all the way back to try and find what it's trying to focus on with the autofocusing system. And I'll be curious to see if the Sigma can beat that, and it would be surprising if it did better than the native lens. Okay, let's get to it. Slap it on the M50 and see how these two stack up to one another. All right, so through testing, I've been finding out that the Sigma lens has been surprisingly accurate and fast when it comes to autofocusing. And in every single case, it's actually been faster and just as accurate as the native 32mm lens. For example, here I have it tethered to my phone, and we're going to bounce to the background and then back onto my face, just like that. See how fast that is? That's actually Sony level fast. If you have any experience with Sony cameras, that's what I've grown accustomed to when using any of the A6000 series. And to see this come from the Canon lineup is surprising considering the native 32 lens is cinematically slow. You'll see me say that in the review of itself. So let's switch it over to that lens, because here, keep in mind, here is the switch. This is in low light, by the way, so harder for it to catch on to contrast and the dual auto pixel system, but low light, autofocusing, fast, accurate, boom, right onto me. Okay, here, let's go to the native lens. Boom, and there we go. Here's the native 32 lens, and as you can see, it's shooting just as well at night, but check this out. Here's the main difference. I'm gonna autofocus to the back and autofocus back onto me, and see that speed difference? There's the difference right there. I should autofocus this, or I should compare this back to back. There's that cinematically slow speed. Bit of lag there, hang on. Yeah, it's kind of sluggish. It's actually performing better than I remember though, but you can see it's a bit slower, and this is operating with that switch on full as far as the minimum focus range. This is as slow as it gets, but the minimum focus range isn't going to come into play here because it is finding my face easily when I tap on it. It's finding the background easily when I tap on it. being helped out by the Christmas lights, no doubt. But here, there's not a lot to go on with contrast and the dual pixel autofocus, so I'm impressed that it works so well with this night light. But in any case, both of them are quite usable, but there's the main difference, and I found that continued to be the difference whether in daylight, low light, no matter what the situation was. When it came to autofocusing in video mode, there was a distinct speed difference between the two lenses. Now, that being the case, both these lenses have similar focal length. You can see that 30mm difference when I switch between the shots here, because this is the same tripoded position. However, keep in mind, when it comes to vlogging style shots like this, you're gonna have limitations from that focal length. It works quite well if you have a cameraman, or if you have, say, a tripod and you're gonna set it in one spot and record yourself. But if you're gonna do a vlog style shot where you gotta come to the camera and hold it, this right here, right about here, is about arm's length away. Whoa. There's your minimum focus range difference there. Arm's length away, and we should probably show that as well. Check this out. So here's my big old melon right up in the camera, and we're gonna go to the background. Whoa, and then back on my face. This is what I had trouble with before. All right, let's see if the Sigma can do this, because the minimum focus range, you gotta kind of back out. Yeah, look how slow that was. Let's go back out. Do it again. Come on. Background is trying to find it. There it is. There's that slow speed coming back on to me. Come on, do a hallelujah. Is it? It's trying. It's kind of there. It's just not bringing in the metering. Now there's your limitation right here. Watch this. I'll back out a bit. And there it is. All right, let's switch back to the Sigma and try that close up and personal. Okay, back on the Sigma, let's try the up close and personal. We have it focused onto my face, right? So here's the speed when you're at a distance to the background, back onto my face. Nice, okay. All right, let's get the light back. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna come nice close and personal to the camera. This is about the vlogging distance if I'm holding the camera in my hand. Just not really the best selfie lens. It's a little bit too much on the focal length. But background, back onto my face, moment of truth. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Let's see if yeah, and there comes in the metering. Okay, let's go back to the background. Back onto my face. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9. Okay, it's about 2 seconds for autofocusing. I was trying to give it a little bit more of a count. It's background, back onto my face. Yeah, so it's there already. And then as far as metering goes, as far as bringing that lighting up to the right level, a couple more extra seconds. Sigma outperforming the native Canon lens. Can you believe that? It's the cheaper lens. What in the world? So in terms of image quality so far, I'm seeing basically neck and neck on everything except the Sigma beats out in certain cases. And you know, for me, liking to use the lens a lot for video uses, that autofocusing interaction is just kind of surprising me quite a bit. It's blowing my mind. The cheaper lens made by Sigma, not Canon, for the Canon body is outperforming when it comes to autofocusing interaction. Who would have thought? Okay, here we have a Sigma 30 testing on autofocus. This is a relatively harsh environment to do it, but we're going to try it right here, going from this pole back out to the background. And as you can see, pretty damn fast. I mean, pretty accurate. And it's going to be hard pressed for the 32 to beat this, although I think it'll match it in accuracy, but the 32 just was so slow when I used it. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty great. This is area autofocus. With this harsh lighting, any other type doesn't really work very well. So area works the best when shooting into harsh lighting, something like this with a lot of contrast in the foreground. Okay, let's switch to the 32mm native lens. Okay, so here we have the native 32mm lens on the same autofocusing test, area autofocus back and forth. I do have it on its main full autofocusing setting just because there is a setting that allows it to reduce its minimum focus range, or I guess increase its minimum focus range from 0.23 meters to 0.5 to increase the speed and accuracy of autofocus because it doesn't have to go through its whole range. But I think apples to apples, we should just leave that on its normal full setting. So here it's having a hard time. Here we go. It's a little bit different with the 32 instead of 30 in the same exact tripoded position here. But I'm tapping. Okay, there we go. Tapping once to the background. Okay, tapping to the foreground here on the bottom right. There we go. So, just as accurate, but slower. You can probably see that there. Yeah, I found my good spot. And yeah, it's cinematically slow. And this kind of is funny to me that the Sigma is outperforming in speed the native lens, especially considering this is the more expensive lens and it's the native lens. So it's just a little bit comical to see that 100% beaten by the Sigma lens here. Okay, photo comparison time. Now this is a great example here of the difference in field of view. As you can see, the 32 has a little bit more cropped in with the same composition at the light there, and also with the garage on the right, you can see a little bit more there. It also is a good example of the barrel distortion that's going to come from both of these lenses. You can see that in the brick line and also in the driveway line here. There's also going to be a bit of difference in the bokeh and the subject separation, and you can see that here. Now this is kind of personal preference, but I kind of like it to be a bit creamier like the Sigma is presenting. And I'm just going to start off by zooming in right here to kind of show you up close what that looks like. It's a subtle difference, but I think through these tests I'm going to probably see that be a constant motif where it's just a little less jagged to my eye, and that's just a little bit more personal preference because both of them do a great job at subject separation here, shooting wide open. Now if we zoom in, this is manually focused on the face and eyes. You can see that they're basically neck and neck, although if I had to be really picky, I would say it appears, and we'll see this in a second test shot to compare it once again, but it looks to be that wide open, the Canon is actually a little bit more crystal clear shooting wide open. It's good to see. I mean, it's the more expensive lens and it should have something to boast about that, or at least support the fact that it does cost a bit more to get. Besides that, I'm also noticing slight difference in color. So this is both on the auto white balance from the M50, and it just seems like not only the medallion here, this logo, but also the color of the jacket itself is just a little bit more vibrant and brighter on the left, and maybe even a little warmer on the skin tones coming from the Sigma. So both these lenses would take a slightly different adjustment in color if shooting in the exact same scenario. Besides that, everything else looks pretty much on par. All about the same in focus here, it seems. Just that slight color difference. And then down the line of the car, you can see where it comes out of the depth of field here as it goes down the car line. And then you've got that nice blurry background there. Okay, but let's stop up here to 2.8 and get a little bit more in focus and a little bit more clarity out of both these lenses. You saw the background change there, and here I'm betting that the background's basically, yeah, pretty much neck and neck in how it presents here. And yeah, it's pretty much, I like that both. It's about the same as far as how creamy it is. And we're gonna go and take a look and see. Yeah, here we go. So now the lenses are neck and neck on clarity. So what's in focus here in the face and the eyes is basically on par with one another from the Canon to the Sigma, although I'm seeing that the color difference continues on. So that's probably gonna be a constant thing here. Very subtle, but I can see it. I'm pretty sure you guys can too. That color difference just coming through the blues in the jacket and just very subtly in the skin tones here in the face and the skin. Not as noticeable in these bags for some reason. Maybe in the greens there, a little bit. Okay, and as you can see, the depth of field is expanding a bit more. See that through the car line there. Both have really nice crystal clear quality here on the lines in the back of the car here. Let's stop it up again. Let's go to F4. Okay, pulling the background even more into focus. Gonna have even more clarity, I bet. Boop, loading on the right. Boop, there we go, okay. Yeah, looking good. A little bit more clarity and a little bit more in focus as well, of course. Colors continue to be slightly different, so that's gonna not be attributed to the aperture. That's just its constant lens interaction with the camera body there. And then the background, yeah, it looks good. They're both looking about the same here. You know, interestingly enough, when I'm zoomed out here looking at the full composition, it's not as noticeable to me, that color difference. If anything, I just would have assumed the subject is slightly more shaded, but when you zoom in, you can just really see in the highlights especially that difference there. And then the metal medallion really does make it stand out in contrast, because it's almost like it's a bit more tinged on the Sigma lens from that warmth. Okay, let's go up to f6, see if we got any more boost in clarity here. Looking great. Everything's nicely in focus here. I'm wondering if we'll get another boost from f8. Let's try it out. f8. Basically pulling everything into a good amount of focus. There's probably going to be a little bit going on in the background still. I had to guess. Yeah, just slightly out of focus there, but not noticeable when looking at the overall composition. Let's see if we can see where it goes out of focus here on the line of the car. Pretty nice all the way through here. Yeah, right about here, the end of the car. And as far as the face, okay, yeah, so neck and neck here on the clarity as well. And not too much of a difference once you kind of get past f4. Both lenses are pretty darn sharp no matter what after that aperture. Okay, let's jump to a different composition and see if we can pick out any other differences between these two lenses. Okay, let's see if there's continuity in the differences I'm seeing between these two lenses. Still the 32 on the left, Sigma 30 on the right. And let's check out the background first. Yeah, so this is a little bit better example as to what I mean when I say what I like when it comes to the blurry background. And it's just a little bit more jagged and harsh throughout. You saw me be quite picky about this when it was the 32mm versus a speed boosted Nifty 50 on the Viltrox speed booster. And it was even more harsh than this on the Nifty 50. Of course, that's a far cheaper lens than either of these two. And Sigma, I'm just really impressed with how well that subject separation occurs when shooting wide open. Now, as far as clarity, let's see about that. Because in that first shot, I was noticing that the Sigma seemed to be slightly softer than the Canon. And it's just so subtle. But yeah, I'd have to say it's just very slightly a little bit softer than the Canon lens, which is, again, thank goodness there's something to argue for the extra price of the Canon, because it's not just the 20 bucks more, it's quite a bit more. I think 150. Okay, and how about that color? Let's check that out. Yeah, I mean, I'm still seeing it here. So especially in the blues, you're just seeing a little bit more vibrancy and brightness and just that tinge there. And so once you kind of pick your eyes off that and take a look at the skin color, you can also see that there, just a bit warmer in the Sigma lens. And, you know, of course you can move around and change the settings on white balance. Canon's so good at skin tones and white balancing that I don't like to mess around too much with it, but it's just interesting to see that there is that difference between the Sigma and the Canon, because it's noticeable enough. Okay, let's stop it up to f2. Okay, a slight change in the background. Let's take a look at it. Yeah, still a little different, but getting more on par with one another as we stop up there. Clarity, let's let it load. Yeah, so as soon as you stop out of that 1.4 and even go to just f2, one stop up, you notice that the clarity is neck and neck now. So they're both on par with one another, and the only real difference at this point is just that color balance. Most noticeable in the blue, and then a little bit noticeable in the skin tones itself. Although honestly, when looking in the foreground, I don't notice it here at all. Can't really tell between those two out of focus hands. Let's stop it up again. Let's go to f2.8. I'm expecting any softness to kind of dissipate as far as in the eyes, and yeah, you can kind of see it there. And actually, I'm kind of curious if we go, let's just jump over to f4, see if we get any more clarity coming out of here. Now that's about as clear as it gets, which is impressive. And you should be able to see this in the eyes. You got the skyline there, and you can even make out me in the camera if you look close enough. If you can't see that kind of thing, try and watch on a device that's 4K capable. You can watch this video in 4K. You should be able to make that out. But that's pretty much neck and neck between the Canon and the Sigma there, both equally as sharp. And The color difference continues, so that's definitely a motif there. The background is pretty much on par with one another. Yep, looking both just as good in the bokeh, and the composition is about the same here. So as you stop up, those differences kind of become more and more subtle. And then let's go all the way to f8 and get everything as in focus as I'm gonna get it, and take a look at the background. Pretty much, there's still some subject separation going on, but you know, you can obviously see things pretty well in the background. And then as far as clarity here, still looking pretty good. Not a huge difference going from 5.6 to 8 as far as what's in focus being sharper. And then you're going to see that all come into focus here all the way down the arm. Even the hand a bit starting to come out of focus here. And still that color difference going on in the skin and in the coat. Okay, so summary thoughts. To pay respect to the Sigma 30, I'm actually going to shoot this on the 30mm right now. And as you can see, it's performing quite well with eye-tracking autofocus. So extremely impressive performance from the 30mm, considering it is the earliest of the trio from Sigma to come out in 2016 and hold a candle to the 32mm native Canon lens in everything from image quality to autofocusing. In fact, its autofocusing was faster and just as accurate as the native lens from Canon. And not only that, it came with a lens hood. And Canon does not do that on almost all their lenses. So win-win there. And then when it comes down to image quality, basically they're neck and neck. You know, there's a little bit of difference here and there, maybe a little bit of error from the variables within each test shot. However, with it lined up with 100 ISO, shooting the exact same setting at the exact same scene in a tripoded position, you can tell they're basically on par with one another. So the question is going to be, is the cost savings combined with the faster autofocus make the Sigma the clear winner in this lineup? My vote says yes. Unless, of course, you're really into having buttons on your lens, and then that native Canon lens has that autofocusing limiter switch, which is pretty cool. But in any case, you got to make the decision for yourself, and I think there is something to be said to have the native lineup for your M50 or your EF-M mount system camera. All right, guys, besides that, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to check out the lenses for yourself and the links in the description and comment down below. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the requests, and I'll see you guys next time on Drive-By Reviews. Limiter switch, which is pretty cool.
It's worth the extra $200.
It's worth the extra $200, clearly.
You should say that in your video.
I'm saying it right now.
Dawn of Titans.
If this video gets over 1,000 likes, I will sneak into Technology Mafia, aka Arthur R's home, steal his lenses, and give them away for free, one video at a time.
Wow.